Welcome to the Explainer. All right, let's jump right into it. We are living through a moment in human history that is literally unlike any other. I mean, we're stepping into an era where we possess what can only be described as godlike technological capabilities. So today, we're unpacking some mind-bending insights from futurists Peter Diamandis and Steven Kotler. We're going to explore exactly what happens when we hit this phase of exponential abundance, the sneaky psychological traps that are just waiting for us, and the frameworks we absolutely need to actually thrive in this new world, rather than just merely survive it. Check out the date on this quote from Stewart Brand, the founder of the Whole Earth Catalog, 1968. He was talking about the trajectory of technology back then, but let's be real, in 1968, we definitely didn't have godlike tools. Today, though, that has radically changed. What used to be the stuff of theoretical futures and crazy science fiction has, just become our Tuesday morning reality. We are actively wielding capabilities right now that were once strictly reserved for mythology. To really wrap your head around this, look at this number, 83. If you look at the Old Testament, just taking one holy book and one tradition, there are exactly 83 recorded miracles. Well, researchers took those 83 miracles, categorized them, and mapped them against modern technology. The result? Pages and pages of direct, single-space technological equivalents. It turns out omniscience and omnipresence are just things we casually refer to today as Google, ChatGPT, and Zoom. Or think about curing the blind. There is a bionic eye technology currently being brought to market designed to target macular degeneration, which is a condition plaguing 180 million people. That is literally a miracle of biblical proportions, available today. Which brings us to the massive central tension of this whole explainer. We have the power of God, sure, but are we actually wise enough to handle it? We have this incredible exponential abundance all around us, but we're trying to navigate it using these struggling ancient brains that evolved in an environment of total scarcity. This massive contrast between our modern tools and our biological wiring is creating some really intense friction in our daily lives. So, Section 1, Information Overload and the Cascade of Burnout. To understand this friction, consider that back in 3000 BCE, humanity produced the equivalent of roughly 1 gigabyte of data over an entire year. Last year, try 181 zettabytes. That is an absolutely incomprehensible amount of information. And frankly, it is vastly more than our brains ever evolved to process. And that incomprehensible jump in data, that's exactly why so many of us are feeling so anxious, distracted, and just generally disconnected right now. Steven Kotler outlines this as a specific, cascading chain of events. It all starts with information overload. That automatically triggers cognitive overload. Your brain just simply cannot hold all those thoughts at once. When you're constantly overloaded, your attention starts to fracture. You can't focus. That immediately leads to decision fatigue because there are just way too many choices. From there, you fall into what he calls meaning drift, where life suddenly just doesn't feel as meaningful as it used to, and that erodes your creativity and your resilience. And the final destination of this whole cascade, total burnout, which ultimately leads to identity collapse. So listen, you're not broken. Your ancient brain is just getting totally buried in zettabytes of data. Moving on to Section 2, the cautionary tale of Universe 25. We need to pivot real quick from our modern burnout crisis to a pretty terrifying biological warning from the 1950s. It really perfectly captures the hidden danger of having every single need met effortlessly. This warning is wrapped up in a fascinating experiment called Universe 25. An ethologist named John B. Calhoun built a literal mouse utopia to study what happens when you introduce perfect abundance. The mice had infinite food, infinite water, tons of space, and zero predators. So what happened? Total behavioral and societal collapse. Without the foundational drive of challenge or the need to struggle and play, they completely lost their purpose. Some of the males became randomly hyper-aggressive, while others, who the researchers dubbed the beautiful ones, did absolutely nothing but obsessively groom themselves all day. Maternal behaviors completely vanished. The society utterly destroyed itself, basically because everything was just too easy. And this brings humanity to a major impending fork in the road. As AI and automation start removing all the friction from our lives, we are going to speciate into two very distinct paths. On one side, we have the consumers. These are folks who just passively take it all in, living in virtual worlds, endless Netflix, completely comfortable but entirely devoid of challenge. It's basically the Wall-E timeline. On the flip side, we have the creators. These are the people who actively use AI as a tool to explore, to build, and to do things much bigger than themselves, driven by what's called a massive transformative purpose. If we don't consciously choose that creator path, we seriously risk suffering the exact same fate as the mice in Universe 25. All right, Section 3, rules for AI collaboration. So the obvious question is, how do we actively choose the path of the creator? Well, it all starts with how we safely interface with our shiny new tools. Let's look at the ground rules for AI collaboration. First up, you have to beware of cognitive offloading. AI is absolutely coming for our cognition and our creativity. You see, the human brain is this strict efficiency engine. It wants to save energy at literally all costs. So the minute you let AI start doing the heavy lifting of thinking for you, your brain offloads that skill entirely. In fact, in one staggering study, top executives who used AI to write their daily emails completely lost their own ability to write with proper spelling, grammar, and sentence structure after just one single month. The AI got better, sure, but the humans physically got worse. To prevent your brain from getting locked out of the conversation, you have to follow these specific ground rules. First, always start with a clear emotional purpose. That's your North Star. Second, and honestly this is absolutely crucial, you must do the human thinking first. Human memory is associative, meaning one thought naturally triggers the next. If you just bring a blank slate to AI and let it start the chain of association, your brain's memory banks aren't being accessed at all. You have to ignite that creativity yourself. And finally, let the AI serve purely as a feedback system. Use it to help you scale and improve your original ideas, rather than having it generate them from scratch. Section 4, the longevity escape velocity. Because look, if we're entering this era of unprecedented abundance, the obvious next step is making sure you actually live long enough to enjoy the whole shebang. Have you ever heard the term longevity escape velocity? This is the impending point in time where, for every single year you're alive, science and medical breakthroughs actually add more than 1 year to your life expectancy. Tech leaders and researchers are actively predicting that, largely thanks to AI simulating billions of medical scenarios, we could see the human lifespan literally double in the next 5 to 10 years. No joke. We are standing right on the precipice of a health span revolution, where you don't just live to be 150, but you do it with the energy and vitality of a young adult. But to actually intercept that wild future, you can't die of something preventable today. You have to nail the biological pillars right now. These are your absolute non-negotiables. 8 hours of sleep, and you're aiming for that deep rest. A high-protein, low-sugar diet. Rigorously building and maintaining muscle mass, which, by the way, is your #1 predictor of longevity. Fostering an optimistic mindset, data actually shows this adds 15% to your lifespan. And finally, utilizing things like digital uploads and full-body scans to find hidden diseases early. Because let's face it, the human body is incredibly good at hiding life-threatening issues right up until it's too late. Which brings us to our core takeaway for today's explainer. As Steven Kotler points out, the next 10 years belongs to humans who can drop into flow and collaborate with AI. Surviving and really thriving in this coming decade isn't about running away and hiding from technology. It's about merging deep human peak performance, that elusive state of flow where we just learn faster and think bigger, with the ultimate scaling tool of artificial intelligence. Okay, let's wrap it all up with this thought. You are literally sitting on the edge of a world where you will have access to godlike technology and potentially an incredibly extended lifespan. You've got the tools, you're going to have the time, and now you know exactly which psychological traps to avoid. So the only question left to ask yourself is this. With an extended lifespan and godlike tools right at your fingertips, what massive, transformative purpose will you pursue?